Hi guys, welcome back to the show. Thank you for coming out. Today I have Sohn. He's a leadership transformation coach, one of the world's top 50 leaders, blogger, one of the top Christian Millennials, and the author of Quarter Life Calling, How to Find Your Sweet Spot in Your 20s. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thanks for having me, David.
So let's go right into your book, right? Your book.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. Well, the book's called Quarter Life Calling, How to Find Your Sweet Spot in Your 20s. The book is really about this question that I think a lot of 20-somethings are wrestling with, which is, what am I supposed to do with my life? And I've had my own questions about who am I, why am I here? And when I was 25, I hit that perfect storm of a quarter-life crisis. And during that time, it actually gave me the opportunity to discover actually my calling in life. So this book is entitled Quarter Life Calling because I believe that this time in your 20s, which could become one of the most turbulent, unstable, confusing, anxious period in your life, can be an opportunity to really discover your why, your true north, why God created you. So that's why I wrote this book, is really to encourage fellow 20-somethings who are wrestling with a lot of questions about their direction, their purpose in life, to know that God has a plan for you. And, I could go a lot more in depth, but basically it breaks down into several different tools and exercises that's really practical for any 20-something to go through and to really discover their calling in life.
Thank you. So my question about that is, what do you think stops people to find their calling? Like one thing that stops them to find their calling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of different things. First and foremost, one thing I can think of is this overwhelming sense of fear, right? I think what happens is as we grow and as we mature, we have a lot of hopes and dreams, but a lot of that becomes unfulfilled because of this fear that, whether it's trying to make a living, right? Or whether it's trying to live under this expectation from this culture and our parents, especially me being an Asian American, there was a lot of pressure coming from my family. And because of this fear that I would not succeed, a lot of, again, negative self-talk, for instance, has, I think, been a really important factor in preventing a lot of people, but a lot of millennials as well, from stepping into their calling and identity in Christ.
Okay, so can we talk about the dreams, right? What are the difference between dream and a calling?
Right. So, that's a great question. I remember going to a local bookstore and I would find all these bestsellers, right? And it would be all about pretty much these biographies or famous people who were able to fulfill their dream. And basically the message is, you guys need to discover what you're passionate about and just work your way towards that, and you can become anything that you want to be. Really the American dream. Which I think is the general message that the world is telling us, but I really believe that a calling is literally a response to a call, right? A calling is, there's a summon, there's a reason why God has called me to be who I am, and my responsibility is to listen, first of all, to the call and to respond to that. So the idea is that I'm not going to be the next Bill Gates. I'm not going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs, but I'm going to become the best version of Paul Sohn. So instead of comparing myself constantly, which is something I've been doing for many, many years, I feel a lot more liberated and freed to step into who I was called to be and created to be, and really live that destiny that God has really planned in my life.
Thank you. So you found your calling, you found your passion, you're following it. So how do you feel like from the past for now?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, here's the thing is, I think a lot of people tend to glamorize this life of finding your calling, and like in the movies, suddenly you've just achieved this thing and it's just like incredible paradise, right?
Yeah.
But if I could just break the news, it's not always like that. I mean, I've realized over the course of my life of the difference between living just kind of this worldly dream and then finding my calling and pursuing that. There's going to be times where I'll be definitely challenged, right? And just being real about pursuing your calling right now for me is I need to be able to think about sound business models so I can financially support myself. And I'm single, so I just have to take care of myself, but there'll be a point where I'll get married and have kids. So
Yes.
being able to meet those needs is real, and it's not as sexy as it sounds and looks like, but it's gonna be full of challenges. But the beauty of it is that deep inside there's a sense of profound peace and joy, knowing that this is what I'm called to do and called to be, instead of feeling like, gosh, feeling restless or empty, despite the amenities that come with pursuing other things in life. There's something really wanting and lacking in that. And for me, pursuing this calling, I know that this is what I was called to be and born to do. So it's a very liberating feeling for sure.
Oh, okay, great. So now let's talk about your career. Right?
Yeah.
You worked at amazing companies, Fortune top 50 companies. But how did you feel when you started?
I think I was just pretty excited. I think there was this honeymoon phase period, to be quite honest, going into working for one of the top, Fortune 50 companies. I worked for Boeing for 5 years, and initially, I think I had a lot of expectations. There was a lot of interesting stuff, learning, working with senior leaders who were twice my age was definitely an interesting assignment for me. I was making a really good handsome income in my early to mid 20s. I was living in a very nice posh neighborhood in downtown Portland. So, it was really a great experience for the first, I would say, 3 to 6 months. But then it started to change. After about 6 months, I realized that there was something missing, something empty about what I was pursuing. And like King Solomon says, it's a chasing after the wind. Everything is meaningless. There's vanity. And I realized that I was just becoming like everybody else. Even though I would profess myself as a Christian, I would define myself based on power, prestige, possessions, making a name for myself. And as I was pursuing that, I felt there was this lingering sense of like there has to be more to life than just this, right?
Right.
And I think that feeling just grew and grew to a point where I had an anxiety attack one night, trying to sleep, couldn't sleep at all, and my entire body was shaking at night, and I started to feel my heart was just racing, and I didn't really know what was going on. So out of desperation, I actually called out to God and said, God, like, I need you right now because I have no idea what's going on. And that's when I really believe that God was telling me that, Paul, you've been asking the wrong questions in your life.
Oh.
Everything that I was asking about was what I wanted, what kind of job I wanted to have, what kind of career, friends, place that I wanted to live. But never once did I really ask God, like, what is your plan for me? What was the reason? Why did you create me? And that shift happened that night. And, since then I was able to really discover what my calling is. But that was, I think, a major milestone for me.
Wow. That's such a change because, Fortune 50 company, like Boeing, that's like a dream company for almost everybody.
Right. Definitely.
And then, but then you felt emptiness, and you felt something that everyone expected to get when they work at some certain place. It's amazing how you change just like that. You quit the job, but how that's like a leap of faith, right? From a certain place to certain place that you're not sure of.
Absolutely.
So what helped you to?
That's a great question, and I say this because as I speak on this topic a lot, many people ask me, how did you do that? And for me, I would just be straight honest. Even though I was feeling the sense of emptiness and restlessness after about a year in, I didn't quit until I was in my fourth year, fifth year. So it took a long time. And part of it is fear, obviously. When I actually decided to quit, many people called it, Paul, why are you doing this? Like, it's almost like a corporate suicide. Like, you're never going to come back. And I realized the profound implications of that, for sure. For me, it really helped when I had greater conviction and confidence that God has a calling in my life, and I wasn't in a place where I was growing. The culture that I was in wasn't conducive for me to just continue to challenge myself and to really be in a place where I can fulfill the vision that God's given me. So I did try to make some decisions in terms of aligning my life, being able to live towards my calling and my vision. But it ended up my job, my 9-to-5 job, was the last thing that was kind of a hurdle, an obstacle from helping me live that out. So it definitely was a big leap of faith because, to be quite honest and practical, I wasn't able to pay the rent for the next month. So, my plan, and don't get me wrong, is I did have a plan. The plan was to pursue my master's program. I was starting my master's program around the time that I quit my job, and I moved into my parents' house. So I moved from Portland, Oregon to San Diego and had to make a lot of different decisions with the new changes. But that's the thing, is finding and pursuing your calling requires a lot of courage. And for some people, that means continuing to be in your job. For some people, it's quitting your job. It's different for different people. But if you don't have the courage, it's really hard to pursue your calling because there's a cost to it, and it's not always easy as it sounds.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna jump right into some rapid questions. Can you share with us some of your toughest time of your life?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of tough times in my life. I can think of one when I was 14 years old. I was grade 9 in Korea, and I decided to actually move to Canada, Vancouver, BC.
Wow.
And I didn't really see a lot of hope in the future for me when I was in Korea. I moved back and forth a lot growing up, from the States to Korea and Canada, and now in the US. But came to Canada, I had a lot of low self-esteem, low confidence about who I was. But that really helped me, just because I was surrounded by a lot of Christian family. They helped me to really discover who I was. But just the fact that I had no one that I knew in a foreign place, living in a foreign house, for me was very challenging. But in hindsight, very rewarding as well.
Thank you. So now you've gone through all the tough times, and now you're found your calling, you're following it. What are you most grateful for?
I'm grateful for a lot of things, but to be quite honest, I'm really grateful more and more these days for my family and for my parents, my sister. Honestly, I cannot be where I am today without their support and their involvement in my life. The fact that they're for me and they have really sacrificed a lot to train me in the right way. Even though I was moving around at a very young age, when I was 14, coming outside of family and moving alone, my mom and dad was there, and they challenged me, and they encouraged me. They were supporting me, and they did a lot of things just by example. They were leading by example instead of just mere words per se. And for me, that was an incredible kind of an anchor in the midst of this, constant change that I was in for most of my life.
Okay, so before we go on to our last question of the day, where can we find more about you? Where can our viewers find more about you?
Yeah, you can find more about me through my blog. I have a blog, paulsohn, paulsohn.org. I'm also available on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find me there as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So our last question of the day is, if you can imagine yourself in your toughest time of your life, sitting right next to you, what would you like to tell them?
That's a great question. If I could go back, let's say, to that time when I was 14 and having no clue of what I'll be going through and this transition from going from Korea to Canada, I would just say, just surround myself with people who can, that I trust first and foremost, people that I can have a strong community, people who be able to speak life over me. Because I know how vulnerable and weak I am, it's so easy to fall into just my own small world and just have this victim mentality. But I think it's important when you have people in your life, healthy people with a healthy mind and a spirit, to be able to speak over you and just to love you. So I think that's something that I would do, is to surround myself more and more with people like that. And yeah, that's a good question.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it, David.
Thank you. I'll see you guys later.